It's over, and some might say, thank God it's over. But the left is still trying to figure out what the hell happens. Let's get busy. Remember, don't like, share, or subscribe. What are you trying to do? Blow up the channel or something? I got enough on my plate.
Oh, the looks on their faces as they call us racist. Libs in the media can't wrap their heads around Trump's epic win. Instead, they blame it on their usual suspects: racism, misogyny, anger, and cat timph. Roll it, Sven.
Donald Trump knows our country better than we do. He figured out that anger and, frankly, fear were way more powerful than appealing to people's better angels. Whether you're afraid of immigrants or afraid of people who are trans.
We cannot ignore there is still a lot of racism and gender bias in this country. Kamala Harris is a woman of color in an interracial marriage and running as a woman to be the head of state. That is something a lot of Americans are not ready to deal with.
There's misogyny, but it's not just misogyny from white men. Mm-hmm. It's misogyny from Hispanic men.
Right.
It's misogyny from black men. If she were a 6'4" white man from Arkansas or from, Florida, if she could chew tobacco and carry a shotgun and talk about football and be a guy's guy.
Of course, it's racism. It's misogyny. It's gender bias. It's everything but you just had a terrible candidate. I don't understand. These people are disconnected from reality. Or they are so subservient to the overlord of corporate media and getting that paycheck every week that they're just willing to say anything to keep the propaganda machine going. I think now that the election is over, and I have to tell you that the 48 hours leading up to the election, I got all simpy. I got very concerned because though in my mind, intellectually, logically, I had him winning at 312 because that's where a lot of independent content creators were coming up with as far as the electoral landslide win that Trump was going to result in ultimately. But the last 48 hours, my concern was people think emotionally. They think it's time to have a woman president. It's just time. It's time. And that's all emotional nonsense. But I was still concerned that it was going to result in people voting for her. Woefully unqualified, terrible candidate, couldn't answer questions, didn't have a concrete plan. You could hate Trump. You could dislike him for what he thinks, how he says it, but we all know him by now. So we all get it. But what you can't say is that he is not resigned to a concerted plan that he's going to carry out. He's going to shut down the border. He's going to send illegal immigrants out of this country, the people that are criminals and that people that are in cartels or that are wreaking havoc of peace and tranquility, destroying it in small town America, all across the country where all these illegal immigrants landed. He's going to work on the economy. He's going to try to bring down interest rates. He's going to create more liquidity. He's going to try to tackle government inefficiency and debts. This is what he was sent to the White House to do. An overwhelming legislative mandate, popular vote by the electorate. They looked past her gender. They looked past her color. They looked past her identity. All they saw was a cackling moron that was handpicked, usurping democracy. And I feel bad for the left because you were forced with this candidate. If Sleepy had just gotten out of the race in January and been a one-term transitional president, as he said he was going to do, but he got drunk on the power. He thought that really that the right lost the midterms really because of him and his policies, and it was some sweeping suggestion that he was supposed to stay in office another term. If he just stuck to the plan, well then, the left could have found their candidate. They could have had a total contest runoff to see, let the best man/woman win. They didn't do that. They didn't stick to the plan. And now you have to live with the outcome. It wasn't a result of racism, misogyny. You're going to tell that to the overwhelming amount of Spanish men or black men that voted for Trump? They're misogynists. They're racists. It's absurd. Just take an accounting of the logic. You just had a terrible candidate. And mark my words, I'm saying it here. The left, in the next 2 years, they're going to go out and try to find their Trump. They're going to try. But they still won't get it.
Michael Loftus, do you love Scarborough going after the black and Hispanic men for being racist against a black woman who's married to a white guy? Didn't see that one coming.
Right? And you could almost see the wheels turning in Scarborough's head when he's talking to Al Sharpton. He's like, don't say black first. Don't say black first. Don't say black first. So he's Hispanic men. They'll blame it on everyone but a candidate who didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
It's like when you were being endorsed by people who had to read their endorsements off the phone, it was bad. It's like Joe Biden had America on autopilot, and we were heading down, and then he tapped out. He didn't know where he was. Am I in a plane? So they had to get. So the Democrat Party, they didn't look back at everybody else on the plane and go, does anybody know how to fly? They didn't even ask, does anybody know how to fly a plane? They just went, you, Kamala, get up here. I'm a middle class, I don't know. And Tim Walz, I'm going to talk you down, Kamala. Let's land this bird.
That is hysterical. I mean, really. I mean, think about it. The Harris-Walz ticket. If you were on the left and you were voting for them, did you really feel so confident that these people had a defined plan that was going to help the majority of Americans? $25,000 for first-time home buyers. What about the rest of us that are not first-time home buyers? They were going to give out $1 million or so in refunds or reimbursements or reparations or whatever you want to call it to black men starting new businesses. Isn't that defined racism? Giving a particular privilege, advantage to one hand-picked select group? What about the Native Americans? What about the Asians? What about the Indians? What about them? How could you think that any of this was going to work? It's all the identity politics. It is dead on arrival. Hopefully, we have reached a point in this country. The electorate stood up. Vast majority across all sectors of the electorate. Coast to coast. In a majority of counties. People of all stripes spoke. They're done with the DEI nonsense. The identity politics. We're sick of it. The only thing that matters is what puts money into people's pockets, because high tides raise all boats. Everybody just wants a fair and equitable shot at success. That's a winning message. They don't want things handed out to others that are not even supposed to be here. You want to be here, you come across the legal point of entry. You don't sneak across the border. Everybody spoke on this. Because all these people that are coming illegally across the border are ending up in these communities of folks that look like them, and all they're doing is draining from the social services. And the people of those communities spoke. They're sick of it. They don't want it. Send them back, they're saying. It's nothing to do with racism. Nothing to do with xenophobia. It's everything to do with cashola. Because green, that is the color that matters.